The three biggest mistakes when it comes to speaking with confidence and authenticity. All right, so who's ready to go deeper into this content? Because what we're talking about now is speaking up confidently without doubting yourself. And this work isn't always easy or pretty, but it's a guaranteed game changer in how you show up at work. And so we're going to talk through the three biggest mistakes so that you know what to avoid and how you can save time, energy, and sanity. All right. So the first mistake when we're talking about communicating with confidence and authenticity is waiting for the invitation. So I want you to ask yourself if this sounds like you. Maybe you're holding back in meetings. You're shrinking into the background and you're letting other people lead. You feel exhausted and you feel burnt out from trying to please people that you find it easier to simply say nothing. Maybe you're beating up on yourself for not being perfect. You keep thinking or asking, what am I doing wrong? Or maybe you're thinking, you know what, my good work will simply speak for itself. Y'all, if you are there, it can feel like you are holding your breath, like waiting for salvation, waiting for the invitation. And there are real unintended consequences here for this. One unintended consequence is that your career trajectory is in the hands of somebody else. Your manager, your manager's manager, the company overall. And that can lead to a lot of wasted time and a ton of resentment. Why aren't they inviting me? Why have I not been asked to speak? Because a huge unintended consequence of this beyond our individual selves is that when we wait for the invitation, we are upholding inequitable power dynamics in tech. Because we know that if we wait for the invitation, the people who are going to be invited to speak, get promotions, submit for leads on big projects, are the people who are already in the room. And that's upholding systems of oppression that exist within tech. Whether it's racism, sexism, ableism, ageism, homophobia, transphobia, there is this real unintended consequence of waiting for the invitation. Because the goal here instead has got to be for you to create your own invitations, to reclaim your agency, your choice, your power, and your worth. And I want to introduce you to a woman who I've worked with through my program, Rise Up, and her name is Kristen. And Kristen is a character art lead, which means she works at a video gaming design company as the art lead creating characters, which is so cool. She and I just had a call this morning. And when Kristen stepped into working together, she was not speaking in meetings. She had a fear of saying the wrong thing. What happened with Kristen as we worked together in my program Rise Up is she started slowly but surely to say exactly what she thought and taking a risk to ruffle feathers. What Kristen had to do was actually name and tackle her own fear as to why she wasn't speaking up. And in our time working together, we learned that her previous leader had kept telling her that she didn't have valuable things to say, so she shouldn't say anything at all. This led her to shrink back in meetings. And so we really supported her to build back her confidence. And she started saying exactly what she meant. She started releasing attachment to other people's judgments of her. And now, I just talked with her this morning, She told me she's now being invited into senior leadership meetings. She says, now I'm ready to speak at any moment. And this is a quote that I love from her. Now I'm fine with challenging the CEO so that we can have a conversation. And so this shift here, where Kristen at first was waiting for the invitation. She's like, I'm just not going to speak up because I've been told I don't have anything valuable to say. So I'm just going to sit back and say nothing. What this is really talking about is this old identity that she had about her value and her worth in the workplace. And I want to show you this quote from Mark Manson, who's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep. Great book. Highly recommend it. And what he says is that the more something threatens your identity, the more you will avoid it. So if the idea of speaking with confidence, or the idea of speaking authentically to you, or the idea of anything, right? Being a public speaker, being known as a leader, the idea of calling something out that could be super triggering to people. If this idea does not mirror your internal belief of who you know you are or can be, you will avoid it. The antidote to this, though, is to create your own invitations and not waiting idly for someone to open the door. So my question for you is, do you wait for an invitation? Or do you consistently create invitations in your life? Because the truth is, you can make the decision internally to start taking action in this area to create different results. And so you can too. Kristen has done it. Dozens of women I've worked with have done it. But it's a question of, are you ready to take action in this area? Are you ready? Can you consistently create invitations instead of waiting for an invitation? That's my first question to you. And that's our first mistake. So let's move on to mistake number 2. And this is what I call being a bobblehead. Y'all know bobbleheads? Those little action figures where the head just like keeps going yes or keeps getting no. The concept of being a bobblehead is that you are the person who says yes all the time. So this is a phenomenon I see often, especially with women and BIPOC leaders and anybody from a marginalized group. This is a very normal reaction to speaking up. Because this is when, even when you have the opportunity to speak, you play it safe and you say the agreeable thing. But this comes from fear. This comes from the fear of being judged, the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of failing and falling flat on your face. Now, let's be clear. This is not talking about the real hurdles that systems of oppression play in our society today. This is about an internal decision to just say yes. To just say yes to what everybody else is saying. To sweep things under the rug and not really call out the core issue. So if you think about it, this is kind of the way where you would have low confidence but high authenticity. But I want you to know that it's the systems of oppression that exist in our society. They are real, y'all. So much so that being a bobblehead is like ingrained into our society. So much so that in the book, The Confidence Code, which I highly recommend, they found that when women are in the minority of a room, they speak up 75% less than men. And in contrast, most of the men that they interviewed in the book say that they simply spend less time thinking about the possible consequences of failure. It's this fear of failure that's holding us back from not being a bobblehead. So the antidote here to being a bobblehead is to take risk. To say the things that we actually mean and to ask the right questions. I have a question bank as a part of my program, Rise Up, to practice taking risk and receive feedback on the effectiveness of your communication. These are 7 of the most powerful questions that women have told me they write it on a sticky note and they put it next to their computer. And when they're in a conversation, they'll just like pick one of the questions that's the most applicable in the moment. So that you can just pick from this question bank so that you know how to not be a bobblehead and to take risks. Because the truth is, as Katie Kay and Claire Shipman have said, they wrote the confidence code, by the way, is that to take risks, we have to know that we won't always win. Otherwise, we'll refuse to act or we'll be devastated. The antidote here is to take a risk. Say the things you actually mean and ask the right questions. And so at this point, I'm kind of curious to hear, is this a mistake that you're making? Being a bobblehead instead of taking risks. Knowing full well that you might lose. But now I want you to imagine your future if you continue to make this mistake. What impact will it have on your life to not take the risk and say what you actually mean? Because the truth is, leadership opportunities, more money, raises, promotions, impact, freedom, influence, all of the things that you want in your career is close to guaranteed when you take risks and speak up. Over and over and over again. And again, this is a decision that you get to make. The ball is in your court to make the decision to change. And you can do it. So that's the second mistake here. Being a bobblehead instead of taking powerful risks. So I just want to take a quick moment to check in and see what so far has been valuable to you. Go ahead and put in the chat, what is something you're noticing? What's something that's resonating for you? How is this already creating value for you? Okay, mistake number 3. The phrase that I swear, if my purpose on this planet is not to burn this phrase, I don't know what it is. I'm going to trash this from our collective consciousness. The advice that you have to fake it till you make it. Please put fake in the chat if you have heard this advice before. And if you don't feel as viscerally about it as I do, maybe by the end of this I can invite you over to the other side. Because this advice asks you to have high confidence and low authenticity. Right? Like the first mistake is where you're not speaking up, so you have low confidence and you have low authenticity and you're just basically invisible. Being a bobblehead is low confidence, high authenticity. You're just I'm being myself, but I don't have confidence to actually say what I mean. And then fake it till you make it is the high confidence, low authenticity. And there's a double bind at work with this type of advice because I get that without confidence, this can feel like the only way to create confidence. But Emma, if I want to be a director, I want to be a senior director, I want to be VP, I want to own my own business, but I don't believe that I am, I have to fake it. I have to trick myself. But that, my friends, is what oppression, like white supremacy and the patriarchy, want you to believe. Those systems want you to believe that there is only one way to make it. And it is to assimilate. It is to act exactly like those who are in power for you to get what you want. I will let you know this is total BS. And I work with women, people of color, folks from the disabled community who prove time and time again that this is false. You can show up authentically in the workplace, in tech today. Now, depends on the company, right? Sometimes you have a horrible culture and I'll just tell you to GTFO, get the bleep out, right? But it can be done without faking it. The other interesting piece to this concept is the belief that people can tell when you're faking it. And this is what I believe to be one of the biggest misses with addressing imposter syndrome. Why do so many women feel like imposters? Go ahead and put imposter in the chat if you have ever felt this feeling of I am an imposter. I don't know what I'm doing here. They're going to find me out. Right? But this is because the behaviors and styles that you are seeing be rewarded in the workplace are mostly white, mostly male, mostly college educated, mostly upper class. When in truth, I've worked with hundreds of women who once they tap into who they truly are and hear what their authentic voice really sounds like, it is miles easier to quiet the voice of imposter syndrome and truly show up with confidence. Because if you embrace this fake it till you make it, people can tell. Have you ever experienced this? Like this quote here from Cameron Anderson, who's a psychologist who studies this term called overconfidence. And he says that we can see the tells of fake confidence. No matter how much bravado this person musters, when people don't genuinely believe they are good, we pick up on the shifting eyes and rising voice and other giveaways. Like, have you ever experienced this where you can tell that someone is trying to be seen as confident or known as an expert, and it's mostly hot air? Like, it's no substance, it's limited truth. And so the antidote to faking it until you make it is tapping into being who you truly are so that you can become this higher version of yourself, so that you can practice. Practice is the antidote here. Practicing this true and authentic version of you. Maybe it's even outside your team or outside of your family, outside of those normal places that you're operating so that you can get clear on who you are. The antidote to faking it till you make it is being it to become it. And so I want you to take a quick moment and ask this question. How many minutes per week do you spend worrying about what to say in a meeting or call? So multiply that by 52 and now divide by 60. How many hours per year are you spending worrying about what to say in a meeting or a call? What would you want to do instead with that time? If you could reclaim those hours, what would you be doing? Would you be going on a walk, doing the actual work? You know, I'm thinking even bigger than that. I'm like, would you go and take a nap? Would you travel? Like, what would you be doing with that time that you came back? Productivity, getting things done, and feeling great. And I want you to remember that you can reclaim this time. You can reclaim this time by shifting your mindset from waiting for the invitation to creating the invitation, shifting from being a bobblehead to speaking up and taking a risk. And instead of faking it till you make it, be it to become it.